here, and Smooth Manny is going to come in. We do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here at the office. He'll be playing the role of the perp. I will be playing the role of the officer. It's time for a crash course in self-defense.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the pressure to the point that you could go unconscious. What's important is not all grappling forms are created equal, okay? They're not created equally. What needs to be emphasized with police officers is control, is closing that distance, pressure, and pinning, and hopefully using submissions that can subdue an opponent without hurting them. So what would that mean is staying to them, glued, and I would support chokeholds over something like an armbar, because once you find yourself in an armbar, you don't necessarily have control over his whole body, and you've just got to make a decision, snap it or move on to something else. That's why I'm not a big advocate of chokeholds because it's mean. I'm a big advocate of chokeholds because if I had to lose a fight, I would rather be choked unconscious than through any other method. No damage, no one needs to be hurt, complete control, and next thing I know, I'm in a panty wagon on my way to the kini. So let's watch the first portion of this video.
Hey, that's real. Oh!
Okay, the police officer is measuring distance, as you see.
Taser ass, man.
Okay, good. Now, the problem here is, and we'll keep playing it, there are a couple things that he could have done there where he could have been in more control. He's leaving too much space. Now, what happens here is, okay, let's pause it. I'm going to bring in Smooth Manny. Oh, thank you. Look, a wonderful.
Yeah, looks like Willie Nelson.
Yeah, okay. It was always on my mind. Yeah. So a collar drag, you know the collar drag. So the police officer kind of grabs him and just throws him to the ground. But what would be important with that, in this scenario where you saw him pick him up and drop him, that's because of space. Now I want to kind of teach you something here really quickly, right? If this is space, punching, and the myth that you'll get from people with Krav Maga or Kung Fu where they go, oh, if an attacker has a knife, I want to be far away from, no you don't. You either want to be up close where you can feel his body and grab him, or you want to be in the next zip code. The last place I want to be is right here. So when he does that collar drag, what I'm going to show you is a collar drag is very simple. You grab a collar, right? And these, by the way, are available at ladderclattershop.com. Just as the same as a gi, but we've budgeted so that if this gets ripped, that's fine. You yank someone down, which is what he did. And what I want you to do is so that you don't get hurt, you're going to go down to your, most people would go down to their hands and knees trying to stop themselves from falling. But as you do a collar drag, and this is what they should be teaching at police academies across the country, you use it to pull the opponent into you, not throw him away from you, and get glued to him so that then I can pin him. Let me show you what I mean. He kind of just throws him like that. But the right way to do a collar drag, and you know we've practiced this before, is to, boom, drag, put my foot in, go to the ground, and stay glued on him. You see this difference right here? How I end up in a position of control. Now look, right here, I've kept my knee in. This is something wrestlers might appreciate. I haven't necessarily gotten my hooks in. This is something, I don't know if we need to turn on the lights a little bit brighter, if we can.
I can do that.
But right here, I know people say, oh, what are you doing? That's gay. Okay, well, you know what I think is gay? Getting your ass kicked. So,
That's pretty good.
what you do right here is I keep control of him, I keep a seatbelt grip. But do you see that difference in throwing him away from me?
Yeah.
Audio away?
Right, yeah.
Versus
A lot
keeping
more
myself
control.
glued to him. Because as a police officer, anytime I create that space, he can reach into his pocket, right? Something can, well, right now you're not going to be able to, but if I created that space, right, that becomes a problem. So I want to pin him and control him until I get back up.
Right.
Something that I love, that's a really easy technique to use, okay, is you get your hooks, and this is going to teach you in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously, and hooks are just getting control over the hips, right? And I get this hook in. Manny's a little smaller than me, so it's kind of like an elephant on a bouncy ball here. But I'm going to show you something that can end most of these altercations. You find yourself here all the time. Someone gets down, right, where they're doing, they're trying to stand up.
Right.
All I'm going to do is reach under, grab his forearms, and Manny's is going to be unpleasant, okay? Smooth Manny. And I'm just going to kick forward. Now look at this. See, all my weight is here. Manny, can you bring your hands out? One hand, good for you. But I still have two, so I can choke him. Boom, look at this. He goes unconscious right there. Okay? So that's as simple as just pulling these posts out from under him, where I can get him down on the ground at that point. I can pin him. If someone else wants to come, someone else wants to provide backup, great. Now let me show you something else too. What did happen, let's say you made a mistake, he's on the ground. Okay, so you're on the ground on your back there, Smooth Manny. You really did get baggy pants. Okay, let's have you move here a little bit so people can see. You know what, actually move a little bit more because I'll probably do a knee on belly this way. The cop is here again, what's happening is creating space. Now, this is dangerous, he can reach in his pocket, he can grab a knife, whatever it is, or he can get away. You see the guy started reaching for his leg, right? This is something that kind of happened, it sort of tied him up. One thing Smooth Manny knows, we practice jiu-jitsu here at Louder with Crowder, and something that's a problem that you see with sport jiu-jitsu is because people want to be on the ground, they butt scoot, right? They haven't learned takedown. So high school wrestlers, is this still the camera I should use,
Yep.
or what's the clearest?
That's the one.
High school wrestlers, you know what I'm talking about, right? High school wrestlers out there actually have a really big advantage in learning to control and pin somebody. This is very important with police officers, and you'll see that second officer had no idea. So what we need to do is not admonish officers, not say defund police and think that a social worker is going to solve the problem with a Walmart thug with a rake, but give them the tools that they need to protect themselves. So you know this, a big difference that we have in our training with jiu-jitsu, right, is in jiu-jitsu sometimes people just sit on their butt. But I've told everyone in our class, what happens if I create this space and I'm not controlling you? Yes. We do jiu-jitsu in a different way where there's no mutual agreement in staying on the ground. So it's my job to pin you or control you. So this space is a problem. Not a problem in tournament jiu-jitsu. For a cop, it's a problem. What he could have done right away is get here to knee on belly. Now there's knee on belly, okay, which we do in training, so it's not as unpleasant, right? My knee's across your hip. And you remember there's a funny little story. We train in jiu-jitsu, and one time Smooth Manny said, I want you to go 100%. And he said it was like being raped by a cloth.
By sandpaper.
By sandpaper. Ooh. Okay, so this is knee on belly when you train, right? And this is also why when people say, oh, a choke on a neck with George Floyd. Listen, that was bad training. But this is not going to choke anybody. Okay, this amount of pressure. And how can you tell that I'm not putting that much pressure? Well, look, I have weight on both legs. Okay, and that's what you see with George Floyd. Here's what knee on belly here could look like until backup. Look, real knee on belly is I'm going to put my weight on him, grab his collar and his pant leg. Does that feel a little bit different there, Manny?
Highly uncomfortable.
Now look at this. I don't know if you can see this foot. All my all my weight is on him.
Yeah.
Right, pinning him. Now, 9 times out of 10, what happens when I'm applying this pressure? The guy has one free hand. What are you going to try and do? Push me off. Okay, right here, keep that hand there. That's where you can control him. Boom, go for a Kimura if you want to. This is different from an arm bar because you control the body. Something that I want to see police officers doing, and I'm sure Jocko would talk about this, the problem with an arm bar is I can break your arm, but you can still kick the other officer. You can kind of wriggle free. So I'd rather you see police officers using chokes that can actually subdue someone without anyone being hurt, or using submissions that control their body. What do I mean by this? This is important for people to understand. You can submit somebody and break something, and they may not even know it. So the difference I'll show you, for example, with something like a Kimura is all my weight is controlling your body, you are immobilized. I can use a submission like something called a heel hook. And what does that do? It snaps the ligaments in your knee, but it doesn't hurt. You won't be able to walk right for the rest of your life, but it's not going to end that fight. Kind of like someone says, oh, I shoot someone with a 22, they're just as dead. If it's an hour and a half later in the ICU and you get raped in the interim, you still have problems, provided it's not a Chinese spy. So, let me show you the difference between an arm bar and the Kimura like I was talking about. We go to knee on belly, boom, he goes to push off. I don't want to put weight on him right now because I don't want to be mean. I'm going to grab this right here, and now look, when I bring him to his side, this goes over his head. Now what's really important with this is I raise him up. Let's not rest. Are you okay?
Yep.
Okay. You just let me lift you. I don't want. He was doing like a Bret Hart with the sharpshooter.
Oh, nice.
But see the difference at this point here. See, he is much more controlled. I have control over his weight. I can submit him here if I want to, or of course we can go to a chokehold, which is very common. Another thing that's very common.
And from there you could probably cuff too.
Right, you could cuff him,
that kind of grip.
specifically with a second officer coming in.
Yeah.
Something else that's very common that often happens is the guy pushes, maybe tries to turtle over, turtle will move in towards me, that often happens, and look, now I've gone to get his back. And that's what I want to see police officers doing, going for the back. Second mistake that you see with this police officer, same thing, if you have to submit a drunken buddy or control him. What have I always told you guys if you're on bottom, in half guard, or someone's in top and side control? What do you not want to do? Be flat on your back. So what do you want? Side, shrimping, right? Look, move your hips. We did this with the Hodge twins. Yes, exactly. So the problem, now knowing that, do you know what the problem was that we saw from this police officer? The second officer comes in, Joe Lewis.
Yeah. Smooth Manny.
Check it on.
friendly.
Friendly.
I'm not a foe.
Joe Lewis. He's friendly. Okay, place.
He's wondering if he should
Good.
kill
He
me.
wants to do jujitsu.
So the guy was on his side, and the police officer comes in and tries to control him right here on his side. That's never going to work for the same reasons that if you're on the bottom, you want to be on your side. So he rushes in, the other guy's grabbing an arm bar, which again leaves all of this part of the body not controlled. Good for him, he got an arm bar, great.
Yeah.
This is not what we want police officers using. He comes in on the side here and tries to tie him up, but look, if I come in and Manny's on the side, he can scissor his legs, right? Either way, he can move out. So what I want, if I am on top, is Manny either completely on his back, right? So that I can pin right here at the knees, this is the fulcrum, create a wedge, create some kind of lever, pull up and knee down, or I want him completely on his stomach. So see right here, now we end up with this sort of calf roping where I can get my knees in here and again, create some leverage how I need to while the other guy controls the top of his body. But a police officer coming in, and I'm not saying things don't go wrong, but he came in willingly and just tried to put his knee on the guy who's on his side. That tells me that we have an officer there who has not learned how the human body works, they need a lesson in kinesiology to understand how they can control perps. They spend very little time on it and they don't go through it and review. So most cops have to, yeah, there you go, look at that. See, you can't control him that way. Look, see, he's scissoring his legs. That's a guy who doesn't even know what he's doing. He's not blocking. Now he gets on top. Look, he's not putting his knees on him right now. You have a guy in the back who's taking a weird mounted position. Now he kind of gets his hooks in. It shouldn't require this amount of time and this amount of effort for a guy with a rake in a Walmart. And this is not at all meant to be an insult to any of our officers. It's meant to hopefully get some departments to start training our people more properly so that they don't have to put themselves in harm's way. Because you know what I see happening? I see if police aren't going to be defunded, I see police officers at the very least seeing weaponry and tools being removed. They want to remove guns, some places want to remove tasers, and you're left with your hands, and a lot of these people haven't been trained. So that's what I would like to see happen. And again, anyone who has questions about this, we can do more of these segments. There's a difference between tournament jiu-jitsu, there's a difference between trying to win a fight, right? If you're just in a fight with a barroom brawl, and trying to subdue someone and stay safe while at least inflicting the minimum amount of damage possible, which is what police officers, I believe most of them, want to do. They want to de-escalate the situation. What do you need for that? Bridled power. Of course, if you do run into someone like Smooth Manny, who looks like Willie Nelson in The Clink, which would have been Willie Nelson if not for the fundraiser, he didn't pay his taxes, shoot to kill. This has been a self-defense segment with me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the pressure to the point that you could go unconscious.
Watch Good Morning Mug Club live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.